France, for example, is dealing with widespread protests, while Italy faces enormous debt, and Germany, once the economic powerhouse of Europe, is grappling with a slowdown in industrial output. These challenges are making it harder for Europe to present a cohesive response to external pressures like the looming threat of U.S. tariffs. The fallout from this situation could extend beyond just economic and political turmoil. If Europe attempts to challenge this imbalance, the U.S. has threatened to impose a hefty 25% tariff on European cars, making it clear that Europe could suffer consequences for pushing back. However, the U.S. has signaled that it's prepared to escalate things further, which could lead to a bigger trade conflict with serious repercussions for Europe's fragile economy. Until recently, many had hoped the situation would settle, but the latest developments from the U.S. suggest otherwise. It now seems clear that the U.S. is preparing to introduce even more tariffs, targeting some of Europe's most vital industries. This could potentially send Europe's economy into a spiral, unraveling the stability that has been in place for years. What initially appeared to be a normal trade dispute is now taking on the potential to become something far more significant. So, how did Europe get here, and why is it so unprepared for this kind of economic battle? The root of this situation lies in the U.S. administration's broader strategy. President Donald Trump's tariffs were never random or isolated. They were part of a deliberate and strategic move, grounded in his America First agenda. While some hoped that these policies would eventually fade, recent reports indicate that Trump is far from retreating. In fact, there are growing concerns that, should he return to office, he could introduce even more aggressive tariffs that would target some of Europe's most sensitive industries. These include key sectors such as automobiles, luxury goods, steel, and wine exports, industries that form the backbone of Europe's economy. One of the first industries that would feel the brunt of these new tariffs would be the automotive sector. European car manufacturers in Germany, France, and Italy are already on edge, fearing that their exports to the U.S. could face steep tariffs, causing a sharp drop in sales. The numbers speak for themselves. The potential loss could be massive, putting the future of some of Europe's most iconic car brands at serious risk. However, the impact of these tariffs would stretch far beyond the automotive industry. Europe's wine industry, which is crucial to the economies of countries like France and Italy, is also in a state of crisis. The U.S. is one of Europe's largest wine markets, and if Trump's proposed tariffs are implemented, the consequences could be devastating for European wine producers. French vineyards, which rely heavily on American demand, are already nervously watching the situation unfold. The possibility of a significant hit to exports could expose just how vulnerable Europe is to trade tensions. This is not just about individual industries, it's about the very fabric of Europe's economic strength. The looming threat of U.S. tariffs has also placed additional pressure on the European Central Bank (ECB), which has been grappling with the difficult task of maintaining stability in an already fragile economy. Europe has been facing slow economic growth, low inflation, and increasing political unrest in various member states. The potential for a renewed trade war threatens to push Europe even deeper into uncertainty, further complicating an already fragile situation. But the impact of these tariffs is not just economic, it's political too. Europe is struggling to figure out how to respond to a U.S. administration that shows no signs of backing down. European leaders have consistently expressed a commitment to free trade and diplomatic solutions, but there's growing concern behind the scenes. Europe's inability to adequately prepare for the potential actions of the U.S. government has exposed just how unready it is for this kind of economic warfare. It's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't just a matter of politics, it's a full-scale economic battle that will require far more than just words and political posturing. After years of economic integration and cooperation, Europe is now finding it difficult to maintain unity in the face of growing external threats. The European Union is struggling to stay together as countries like France, Italy, and Germany face their own unique crises. France, for example, is dealing with widespread protests, while Italy faces enormous debt, and Germany, once the economic powerhouse of Europe, is grappling with a slowdown in industrial output. These challenges are making it harder for Europe to present a cohesive response to external pressures like the looming threat of U.S. tariffs. The fallout from this situation could extend beyond just economic and political turmoil. These industries can help shield Europe from the volatility of global markets and provide a more sustainable and secure economic future. Europe is at a pivotal crossroads. The potential impact of Trump's proposed tariffs is not just an economic hurdle, it's a sign that the global order is shifting. How Europe responds to these challenges will determine its future. The ability to adapt, innovate, and unite will decide whether Europe thrives or falters. The choices made now will shape not only the economic future of Europe, but also its political stability. This growing uncertainty is leaving ordinary people nervous about the future, and the potential for social unrest is mounting. At the heart of Europe's challenges lies its ability to respond to external shocks. The European Union has long been regarded as a model of economic integration, with the belief that by working together, Europe could weather any storm. However, the threat of U.S. tariffs is testing the very foundations of that unity. The EU is struggling to figure out how to respond to the growing threat from the U.S. at a time when internal divisions are becoming more pronounced. The so-called Franco-German axis, which has traditionally been the driving force behind the European Union, is no longer as strong as it once was. France is embroiled in internal chaos, with protests, strikes, and political instability weakening its resolve. Germany, on the other hand, is facing its own set of economic challenges, with industrial output slowing and increasing political pressure. This weakening of leadership in the two most powerful EU member states is having a profound impact on Europe's ability to respond. The EU's ability to mount a cohesive and unified response to the potential threat of new tariffs is in question, and the lack of leadership is leaving the Union vulnerable to division. Internal divisions are placing enormous pressure on the ECB, which is already caught between managing Europe's economic slowdown and responding to the potential pressures of global forces. Like the tariffs imposed by the U.S., the ECB's options are becoming increasingly limited. With interest rates already at historic lows, the bank has few tools left at its disposal to stimulate growth or protect European industries from the fallout of a trade war. These constraints are making it even harder for Europe to navigate the economic challenges posed by the U.S. tariffs. Furthermore, the divide between European nations is raising broader questions about the future of the EU itself. Can Europe remain united when its members are struggling to agree on how to tackle external threats? Will this fracture deepen into something more permanent? The threat of new U.S. tariffs is not just an economic challenge, it is part of a much larger global game. The U.S. appears to be using tariffs as a way to assert its economic dominance not only over Europe, but also globally. With China's rise as an economic superpower, the U.S. seems determined to use its economic leverage to challenge any nation or region it views as a competitor. The proposed tariffs on European goods are just one part of a broader strategy to shift the global balance of power. In this shifting geopolitical landscape, Europe is caught in the middle. Its heavy reliance on both the U.S. and China as primary trading partners has left it exposed to external shocks. While the U.S. is focusing on its rivalry with China, Europe is still trying to figure out how to secure its position in this new world order. The global economy is evolving, and Europe must adapt to stay relevant. So, what can Europe do in response to these growing challenges? The truth is, there are no easy answers. Europe must rethink its approach to global trade, internal unity, and economic resilience first. The EU must address its internal divisions. The Union cannot afford to be fragmented at a time like this. Internal political instability, such as the protests in France and political gridlock in Italy, must be resolved if Europe is to stand strong against external threats. A unified response is crucial. Individual nations cannot afford to go it alone. Second, Europe must diversify its trade relationships. The EU's dependence on the U.S. and China has left it vulnerable to external pressures. By forging new trade agreements with emerging markets, Europe can reduce its exposure to these global economic shocks and create new economic opportunities. Finally, Europe needs to focus on strengthening its economic resilience. Investing in sectors like green energy, high-tech manufacturing, and digital innovation will be essential. These industries can help shield Europe from the volatility of global markets and provide a more sustainable and secure economic future. Europe is at a pivotal crossroads. The potential impact of Trump's proposed tariffs is not just an economic hurdle, it's a sign that the global order is shifting. How Europe responds to these challenges will determine its future. The ability to adapt, innovate, and unite will decide whether Europe thrives or falters. The choices made now will shape not only the economic future of Europe, but also its political stability.